Inside the Game on One Soccer and the One Soccer digital platforms. I am Gareth Wheeler. We're on to a new week and we're on to episode 8. Where's the time gone here in isolation? Well, probably a lot of different places for you at home, but what we do absolutely appreciate you tuning in, your kind words, your feedback. It's been fantastic. So thanks for tuning in, all the kind comments, and telling your friends along the way, because growing up in Canadian soccer was these types of isolation series that we didn't get, and we always wanted more. We wanted more exposure, wanted more content, wanted more access, and that's exactly what we're doing on this show. It's been great thus far. Nothing to do with the host. It's all about the guests. They've been completely engaging. They've been outstanding through and through, top-notch storytelling, and we're looking for a little bit more of that tonight. And we have some huge guests coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. So tell your friends it's not too late. More on some of those updates a little bit later on tonight. A reminder while we have you, if you have a question for tonight's guest, you can ask away on the side panel and the text on the YouTube as you're watching live, and you're subscribing, of course, to One Soccer on YouTube, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Gareth Wheeler. Quick reminder of our One Soccer isolation coverage. It continues tomorrow, Monday through Friday on the Hangout, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And it's happy hour with a focus on the women's game Wednesday evenings at 5 p.m. Tomorrow, Melissa Tancredi joins Andy, Laura, and Carm. And to rewatch any show at a later time or date, all you got to do is hit us up on YouTube or across the One Soccer platform. So on to tonight's guest. I don't want to keep him waiting much longer, but I need to do my professional intro. We're a professional organization. I got a microphone now. I feel like David Letterman. The sign behind my back. I mean, this is as professional as it gets, especially coming from at home. Tonight, one of the true greats in terms of Canadian soccer players all time, and one of the most influential individuals in Canadian soccer as well. He's a Canadian Soccer Hall of Famer from East York to York region. He never forgot where he came from after going across the Atlantic and having an outstanding professional career, pursuing that dream of playing top flight football overseas in the UK, from Bristol City to Nottingham Forrest, Norwich, Southampton. He played 275 games in the two top divisions of English football, a trailblazing record-setting career for Canadians abroad. He was the first outfield player, Canadian, to play in the Premier League, the first Canadian to go for a transfer of over $1 million as well. And those were just the first of many other firsts that would come his way. He was Toronto FC's first player, their first captain, making the trip back home to play in Major League Soccer, not for the money, because that's what he wanted more than anything, to continue to grow the game in this country. He became a club legend, playing at home, an Iron Man, playing through incredible injuries, adversity in the team. It earned him a place on Toronto FC's Wall of Honor, one of many awards that have come his way. A Canadian Player of the Year, an MLS All-Star, a Gold Cup winner, a Voyageurs Cup winner, and a Football League First Division winner. Not bad for a player who called his playing career done at the age of 32. Since then, he's remained very much part of the game, for roles in the front office, from the management side of things, and yes, of course, coaching. It's only fitting that a year ago yesterday, he was one of 2 head coaches to be the first ever coaches in the Canadian Premier League in the inaugural match. He's really a story of going full circle, ending up back home in York region, serving as executive vice president and head coach of York9 of the Canadian Premier League. The past is a story to be told, the future, one that is still to be written, and we're looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. He's only the ripe old age of 42, so there's still plenty more to come. He's gone from looking good on the field to being a man of style on the touchlines. I'm jealous of the hair, but more importantly, I'm proud of the career he's had thus far. I want to welcome Jimmy Brennan to Inside the Game. What's happening, Jimmy? How are you?
Not bad. I didn't know I was going to end up talking here. You're just going to keep going on.
See, if you have a shorter resume like myself, it's easy. It's quick. Yeah. When you've actually accomplished things, it makes things a little bit more detailed.
No, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure when we sit down and talk.
How's the family? How is everyone?
Family's good. Yeah, the kids are good. Everybody's healthy. You know, doing the proper protocols and keeping social distancing right. And yeah, everybody's looking after themselves. So we're doing okay.
And the York9 community, I mean, it was an active off season for you, bringing in so many players. How's everyone doing, Jim?
Everybody's been doing good. Yeah, we keep tabs on the players. They've got a program that they have to abide to, and they keep in touch with our physios and the staff to let them know how everything's going. We've got to keep them physically right during this off time, and then every so often we get together. In fact, tomorrow morning again at 10:30 in the morning we have a Zoom call about tactics. So we try to keep it fresh in their minds about the way that we want to play and what we want to do. And then at the same time, every day we've got them doing something to keep them active.
Just knowing you, Jimmy, you just got to be itching. You're raring to go, aren't you?
Yeah,
this doesn't suit your style, does it?
Not at all. I've always been on the go, and this is absolutely killing me.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing right now is everyone's healthy, everyone's safe, everyone's strong, and that's the best. It's funny, I've never asked you this. Jimmy or Jim? Like, what do you prefer to go by?
Listen, it's James, but then when I was young, my mother called me Jimmy. My friends call me Jim. Sometimes I got Seamus because my family's, the Scots Irish, so I get the Seamus chucked in there once in a while, and it's whatever. I answer to most things. I've been called a hell of a lot worse, guys. I
put up Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kidd. Like, everyone's going by Jimmy. Like, it's very rare.
All the guys always call me Jimmy. In the dressing rooms, the coaching, everybody calls me Jimmy.
I'll just call you Jimmy tonight. How does that sound? So Jimmy,
you've always called me Jimmy.
I think so. To spin it back, it's funny watching you play over the years and getting to know you after, then hearing the Canadian soccer debates that's going on right now, especially the one about Alphonso Davies, about where he plays in the Canadian men's national team. You were kind of the original Alphonso Davies, right? You could play at left back. You could play left midfield. You were a progressive. You were a man before your time in the way that you played the position, weren't you?
Listen, I mean, the kid's an exception. He's unbelievable. What a talent he is. And his future, I mean, I can't wait to watch this to see where he goes and how much he wins. For me, I was nowhere near like what he was. But I was actually at the time when the wing back position really kind of started taking off. And when I first went over to Europe, I was a striker more or less and a left winger. And then the wing back position came in, diamond formations, and that was it. I ended up going up and down that line like there was no tomorrow, digging trenches. But it's great to see where he is. He's got an engine. He can get up and down that line, not a problem with his pace. Even if he makes mistakes defensively, just how athletic he is, he can get himself out of trouble. But I mean, when you're playing in a team like Bayern, the wing back is almost playing as a left winger because they have so much possession as it is. But what a career he's going to have, and it's great to see where he is right now. He deserves it.
It's just funny. I wanted to bring that up off the top because I mean, I was at the game where you scored your first international goal against Jamaica. And I was like, who's this kid, Jimmy Brennan, 1999? Y2K even happened yet, flying up and down the wing. The conversations don't change, do they, in footballing circles, whether you're like a global superstar like Alphonso Davies or an emerging, Canadian footballing star playing in England like yourself at that time, right? Like the same arguments happen.
For sure, but and the game evolves, right? You can see the athleticism of the players as well. Every 10 years or so, they're just getting faster, more athletic. The pace of the game is getting even faster. And back then, I was playing left wing. I was up and down that line as a wing back as well. And I mean, to get my first goal at home as well in Toronto against Jamaica, it was a great achievement for myself. And it's one that I'll never forget.
Yeah, and just having a couple really good young wingbacks, fullbacks that are playing under you now, and Doner and Abzi, Canadian kids. I mean, this is what you're all about. When I think about the perfect team for players like that to be in, I think, well, having Jimmy Brennan in your ear, that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, look, even with Abzi, he was always a left winger. But you look at, his physical build, his status, the way he plays, and he's got an engine. He can get up and down the line, and that's why we convert him to a left back, because the majority of times your wing backs normally start as a winger, and you convert them into that defensive side to understand that game. But then they're better coming from deep, and we found that with Abzi. The more we kind of trained. At first, he was a bit reluctant, but then when he started to see the way that we played and the opportunities he was get going forward, because we encourage it, we want you to go forward. And he's really kind of embraced that challenge. And, he held that position on his own this year. And I think he surprised a lot of people.
More to come on York9. I want to get into that conversation, but a lot of people are familiar with you, especially in the Toronto area, playing for Toronto FC, being part of Aurora Football Club, and of course now with York9. But many people still, it's funny, we had Craig Forrest, your good buddy, on the first episode, and the time where he was playing in the Premier League, it was very difficult to access Premier League football. Over the course of your career, I think more people saw you, but still not the exposure that we get of the Premier League and Bundesliga and other leagues around the world today. So I think it'd be appropriate to start kind of at the beginning of your playing career. You went over to the UK as a teenager. How did that come about, Jimmy? Was it always football? Was that always your sport? Or growing up in around the GTA, was it something else?
Yeah, look, I played, and most of the guys I grew up with, we played football in the summer, played hockey in the wintertime. And there was 3 or 4 guys that gravitated towards hockey, and there was 3 of us that gravitated towards soccer. And it was always the sport that I loved. Since I was a kid, I was always kicking the ball. I started playing in Newmarket, ended up moving to Woodbridge, played in Woodbridge for a number of years. And when I was probably about maybe 15, I started playing for Sora Lazio in Woodbridge, the men's team. Broke into the national team as well, got into the under-17 World Cup, was in that group that went to Japan. And when I came back, I asked a guy called Tony Taylor. I said, Tony, look, I want to be a professional footballer. Tony says, well, look, he had the older Canadian team. He says, come out and train with me. Went out and trained with him. After, he says, okay, he goes, I'll give you a shot. Originally, I was supposed to go to Glasgow Celtic. Tommy Burns was there with Joe Jordan. And Tommy Burns ended up getting the sack about 3 weeks before I was about to leave. So Tony phoned me up, says, look, Tommy Burns got fired. He goes, I've got something else for you. You're going to go to Stoke City with Lou Macari. So I was like, all right, perfect. He goes, I'm going to send you there. It's all set up, ready to go. Well, Lou Macari got fired about 10 days later. So I'm sitting there with my plane ticket going, where am I going next? So he calls me back. He goes, look, Russell Osman used to play for England. He's a gaffer now at Bristol City. He goes, I'm going to send you there. I've got a trial set up. Away you go. And that's how that came about, was Tony Taylor set it up for me. So I'll never forget it too, because I asked him on my own. And my parents had no idea at the time. And I said to them after, I was like, look, I want to go be a pro footballer. And at the time, I had a scholarship on the table to Notre Dame and Maryland, right? Both of them ready to set me. And I was looking at it, weighing up my options. My mother's like, you're going to go to university. I said, look, Mom, I said, I want to be a professional footballer. I said, I can always go back to school, but I can only be a professional footballer once. And I want to have a crack at this. So my father was like, let the kid go. And I said, if you buy me my plane ticket, I'll pay you back as soon as I sign a pro contract. So they were like, no way. I can't believe he's going to do this. I was 16, 17 at the time, but I knew what I wanted. So they bought my plane ticket. And I remember going to the airport. My aunts and my uncles and my cousins were all there. And we've got a big family. So they all come. And the first person to cry was my aunt. So I'm looking at my mother and going, you're not even crying, but your sister's crying. So I said goodbye to everybody. I ended up going over to Bristol City. And I remember I got off the plane, jumped on a bus from London to Bristol, got in a taxi to Bristol City's football club, the stadium there, Ashton Gate. Walked in the front doors, said, look, I'm Jimmy Brennan. I'm here on a trial. They said, no problem. You're going to train tomorrow. We'll send you to Diggs tonight. Ended up going to Diggs, trained 2 days. We ended up playing a reserve game against Tottenham. I ended up scoring a goal, set up a goal. There was another guy called Paul Agostino, who later from Bristol City went to 1860 Munich. He was there on trial with me. And we both ended up signing contracts. The next day, Russell Osman pulled us in and said, we've got a 2-year deal contract for you right now. We're going to send you back home, go grab your gear, and then get yourself back. So I was like, okay, perfect. And I went, but there's one problem here. And he goes, what's that? I said, I owe my parents money for a plane ticket. So he goes, how much was it? So I told him, so he gave me the money, and I was like, perfect, thank you very much. So I went back, and then that was it. I mean, I spent 12, 13 years over there.
That's incredible how quickly it happened. Like, not just signing a contract, Jamie, but also from the Celtic to the Stoke. I mean, you just need to get in front of the right people and have that opportunity to do that. That's a story that so many other players might not have that opportunity.
Yeah, but the thing is, people don't realize, especially if you're not in the pro game and you've been involved for a long time, you don't understand that it is a global game, but it's a community football. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody's a phone call away.
Right.
So if you need anything, you can get it. Not a problem. If you're setting up trials and people are in the pro game, they can set it up easy. And that's why Tony's got such great contacts. And I don't think people appreciated just how much and how well respected Tony is in the UK. It was unbelievable. Every club I went to knew Tony Taylor. But when you come to Canada, everybody's, oh, Tony Taylor, who's this guy? And I'm saying, you guys have no idea just how much he is appreciated over in the UK.
See, I've known Tony for a long time. I mean, I should have been getting in his ear back in the day, but obviously for you to stick on, were you confident that you had the ability when you went over there to play at that level, Jimmy? Because for a lot of people that go over, they think one thing, but then reality hits once they hit ground level.
It was it was not easy. It was not easy. And the players there, especially young guys, made it very difficult for me. Being a Canadian guy coming over and playing and taking an Englishman's job, they didn't accept that at all.
Right.
And the only way that I could put it is that imagine a young Englishman coming over to a junior A hockey club or an OHL hockey club and trying to take a young Canadian's job. They'll be going, who's this Brit coming over here trying to play our game? Right? So the roles were kind of different for me, where I'm a young Canadian going over there and playing. They made it difficult, and it took me a while to settle in, really adapt to the training every single day, the standard, just how aggressive everything was. It really took me a long time, but I realized, this is why I came here. I wanted to be a pro footballer, and whatever I took, I gave back just as hard, if not more. There was a lot of scraps on the training pitch, and it was a tough time. But then I think, probably a few months in, where the guys went, what, this guy can play, and he's here for the right reasons. He loves the game. He's got a passion for it, and I settled in.
I mean, this is the mid 90s. We're talking about getting onto the later 90s. What was it like? Because the Premier League era, the new Premier League era, just being established, and there was great optimism around the game at that time, wasn't there? What was it like just being involved in first division football at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Back then too, Saturday I was massive, and I remember watching it every Sunday morning. They used to have it on ITV. Saturday was always the Premier League. And back then there wasn't too many foreigners in the game either. Back in 94, 95, 96, there really wasn't many foreigners, but it was kind of that time where the game was changing a little bit and money was getting spent. We had big TV deals coming in with Sky Sports, and then all the foreigners started coming in, the Zolas, the Vialis, Asprilla, Ginola, all these guys started coming in around that time. And the Premier League just took off, and really hasn't looked back. And, whether you were in the Championship or First Division, Second Division, everybody's eyes are on that Premier League because everybody wants to get into it. So every match is so competitive because every player wants to play in that Premier League.
There's one recurring theme over the course of your career. You've had an incredible number of coaches, which is probably apropos based upon you losing or missing out on 2 other opportunities because the coaches got the sack. How many coaches did you have at Bristol City in those?
I had 5
managers over 5 years.
Yeah, I had Russell Osman. I had Tony Pulis, who everybody knows Tony Pulis. What a great manager he was. I had a guy called Darren Ward, Benny Leon Hartson, and I had Joe Jordan. Joe Jordan was the best. He was probably one of the most intimidating men you'll ever meet in your life. Played for Scotland, Man United, AC Milan, and just had a massive presence about him. He had this big Glaswegian accent. He had no front teeth. Every time he used to come in the dressing room and yell at the players, they were coming out of his mouth. And he was a big guy. He was probably about 6'2", and he ran every day. So he's the fittest guy you've ever seen in your life. Just had such an aura and a presence about him. And I'll tell you a story. This is funny. So Russell Osman gets fired, and Joe Jordan ends up coming in and taking over. Well, Joe Jordan and Tony Taylor were good friends, and right away, Big Joe Jordan comes in, and we never called me Jimmy. We never called me Jim. It was always Jim Brennan. Jim Brennan. You always first and last name. For some reason, I don't know what it was. It was all Jim Brennan in my office now. So my contract was up, and he called me, and he goes, Jim Brennan, sit down. So I sat down, And I said, "What's up, Joe?" He goes, "Thought you did well, son." I was like, "Okay, great, perfect." He goes, "I'm offering you a new contract." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Here's your contract. Sign it or piss off." So I go, "Where's the pen?" I grab the pen. I sign this contract, and I walk out the door, and I start walking down the hall. And so when I was in digs, the woman Rita was the secretary at the club. So Rita looks at me. She goes, "Did you get your contract?" I said, "Yeah, I did." She goes, "You happy?" I said, "I don't know, Rita." I said, "Oh, no, I don't even know what I signed." She starts laughing. I said, "Can you go get my contract, please?" So she goes back in, she gets the contract, gives it to me. Obviously, Joe's looked after me. I was only young. I was like 18, but, he looked after me, took care of me. And, it was always something that he always used to laugh at every time he used to see me later on down on the line.
That is hilarious. At least, and that's not even a good lesson to learn, because typically when you're young, people say don't sign anything you haven't read. You just went against that. And
I went against it. I just wanted to be a footballer so bad at a young age, right? And I trusted Joe. He was great with me, and we actually met up later on down the line in my career. But it was great. It was just such a presence, and I was so excited. I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know what he was going to say. "Jimmy, right? You're out or you're staying." And then when he said, "Here's that contract, sign it or piss off," I was like, "Okay, I'll sign it."
See,
but he was good. He looked after me.
It's incredible. Like, it's great that you had very good relationships with these individuals, because it's not easy for any player, let alone a young player trying to establish himself, to have different coaches come in with different ideas, different opinions of you. Yet in 1998, you're Bristol City's Young Player of the Year, and things were kind of kicking off for you in a good way, Jimmy. So how are you able to kind of steer your way through that, and how much did it potentially set you back?
Look, you've got to be resilient in this game. It's tough. Nothing's handed over to you. You've got to fight tooth and nail for everything. And it took me forever to get into the first team. I had two players that were in front of me, with Darren Bernard and Brian Tinian, and they were a great combo down that left side. And I was playing in reserve teams. I was starting to get a few sniff from other clubs that wanted to sign me. The club didn't want to let me go. That's why they offered me another contract. And I ended up breaking into the team because the right back got injured. So my first few games in the pro team was as a right back.
Wow.
That was the only way that I could get in. So I remember, I'll never forget, the manager goes, "Can you play right back?" And I went, "Yeah, absolutely. I can play. Put me in." And I ended up playing maybe about 6 games. And then the left back got injured. And I went over to the left side after that. And then I never lost my spot after that.
Until you left in 1999, and you became the first Canadian player to be sold over for £1 million at that time, 1.5 million. I should call you the $1 Million Man, Jim. I mean, it was quite the honor. That's a lot of money for a young player at that time. That could very easily go to a player's head. What did you make of the move and the money that was involved at that time?
Look, I was a young guy, and they teach you quickly how to respect the game, and be honest and keep your feet in the ground. There was no big time there, especially if you're a young guy. You would have got absolutely killed. And I'll never forget. There was I started getting a few offers coming in, and it was in the newspapers that this team was after me, that team was looking at me, and then it put the price tag on, and that was in the newspaper. So I'm starting to go, okay, I'm getting a lot of attention here. My agent called me up. He says, "Look, I've got a number of clubs that are after you." I actually thought I was going to Spain. I thought I was going to go to Deportivo La Coruña.
Huh.
They actually came in, put a bid in, and Nottingham Forrest, I got a call at 11 o'clock at night from my agent and the chairman saying that they accepted a bid from Nottingham Forrest, and that I was free to go. They were happy with the terms. My agent was happy with the terms. And that's how it all came about. I definitely thought I was going to go to Spain, to Deportivo.
Wow. You would have done well in Spain as well. I mean, the weather, your complexion plays into it as well.
My olive skin.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so pale. I think when I get sun, I go medium rare. Just a mistake.
No, but you get a lot of especially when you're playing well. The rumors get out quick that there's certain players that are doing well get out, and the scouts are all there watching, and it was pretty cool feeling to know that there was a number of people that were watching you and starting to put bids in.
And with no disrespect to Bristol City, I mean, Nottingham Forest, I mean, this is an historic club, Jimmy. What was it like going to a club of that magnitude? Obviously, they haven't made it back to the Premier League, but I mean, this is a club riddled in history. And
yeah,
really big club.
Yeah, it's a monster club. Just before I got sold, I mean, Tony Pula sold three of us. He sold Sean Goder went to Man City.
Yep.
So he went, I think, 3 weeks before me. Then Adiak and Bayi ended up going to Wolves, and then I ended up going to Nottingham Forest. But when my agent told me, he said Nottingham Forest after you, and I was just like, gee, Nottingham Forest, because back then in the '80s and early, they were a huge club. You know, they won two European Cups, and they won the Premier League back then, and back in the '80s, and it was such a big story club that right away I was like, absolutely, I'd love to go to Forest. And when you get there, there's a big statue of Brian Clough that's right there. You walk in, they got the two European Cups there, all the trophies that they've won over the years, and they've got the European Cup winners are always walking around the club. They're ambassadors for the team, and so there's a lot of pressure on at that club. Because they believe that they need to be back in the Premier League. They should be, and back in Europe. They've had so much success over the years that, they need to get back up there. And there's a lot of pressure on every single game.
It's been 4 years at that club, Jimmy. Like, positive memories overall. What do you remember?
No, I had great memories. I mean, when I first went, it was difficult for me again. David Platt signed me.
Yep.
And we had some big name players that were involved in the club. Pierre Van Hooijdonk just left. Steve Stone was there. Ian Wone, Mark Crosley, Dave Besson, Chris Barr Williams, like a lot of guys that played. Desi Walker, and in the Premier League for a long time. There's a lot of big names that were there. And then here I come at like 19, this young Canadian guy, and just sitting in the corner in the dressing room. They're like, "Who's this guy?" I got guys that are sitting beside me playing for England, playing for Scotland, Ireland, and other countries in Europe, and especially with David Platt too. He was such a presence in that dressing room. Captain England, Arsenal. He had a storied career himself. So for me to learn off of him as well was an honor.
It's funny that plays out that way. That players actually look at you like, "Who's that Canadian?" Do you actually feel it in the room, or do you just or is it maybe something psychological that you think that they're thinking about you?
No, they let you know. Believe me, the English guys let you know right away. They take the piss out of you left, right, and center all the time. So, and then I mean, look, guys that play with me and coaches that I've had, they know what I'm like. They know my sense of humor. I love to have a laugh. I love the banter. But when it's time to be serious, and it's time to work, and we get down to business. But on the outside of it, I love to have a laugh, and I love the banter. So, I took it very, very well, and I give it back as well.
You scored one goal for Nottingham Forest against Norwich, the team that you'd end up actually being with when you left after 4 years on a Bosman. Did you want to stay with Nottingham Forest at that time?
I did. The chairman, Nigel Doherty, was he actually owned Umbro at the time. And I think over the years, because they just came out of the Premier League, and we just missed out going up into the Premier League as well through the playoffs. He wanted to kind of restructure, and he was looking at players' wages and trying to adjust everything. But we actually had a group of players that we told them, we said, look, you keep this group together, we'll be back in the Premier League. And obviously they couldn't at the time. We told them, keep us on the same wages, we'll end up signing 5-year deals. We wanted to be there. We wanted to. That's how much we believed in each other. We had a young squad. I think our average age was 21, 22. And we had Jermaine Jennis in the squad then, Michael Dawson, Andy Reid, Marlon Harewood. A lot of Desi Walker was the captain as well of the club. We had David Prutton, who ended up going to Southampton. So we had a lot of young guys that ended up going into the Premier League the following season, but we all left. 3 of us ended up going to Norwich, and we ended up playing the Premier League in Norwich. But it was a shame because we felt we had a good squad, and Paul Hart was the gaffer at the time. Tactically, probably one of the best I've ever had.
Really?
Very, very good. Very detailed, organized, wanted to play game in the right way on the deck, lots of movement. But it was a shame, what happened. And I actually went back to Forest last year, and the fans still talk about that squad that we had and the group of young players. But it's football. It's the way it is. We all wanted to stay there, but unfortunately we didn't, and we all moved on and heading into different directions.
It's difficult to have patience when most clubs, I don't care where you are in the world, have that win now mentality, always trying to come up with a better way. But things actually worked out for you as you became the first Canadian outfield player to ever play in the Premier League. Norwich got promotion. You had to deal with it. What do you remember about that first game and that rise with your new club to reach a level where you always wanted to play?
You know, it was great. I remember I got a call from Nigel Worthington. Nigel said, "Look, Jimmy," he goes, I want you to come to Norwich." He goes, "We're spending a lot of money. We're getting some players in here this year. We're going for it. We're going to get promoted this year." So he sold the club right away. I felt comfortable. I was like, "Okay, you know what? This could be the club for me. Let's do it." And I ended up going to see the training facility, the stadium. Everything was top notch. It was beautiful. And as soon as I signed, 4 days later, I tore my hip flexor, and I was out for about 3 months.
Wild. You did end up playing in the Premier League. Norwich was in the Premier League for one season. What was Premier League football like for you, Jimmy? Like just
Premier League was great. It was great. I mean, look, the top half of the Premier League, they always say that the Premier League's mixed of three leagues. You know, the top six are on their own. Then you got the middle group that's always there, that's hovering around, which is your Evertons, and then you got the bottom groups that are always fighting against one another, and then the top of the championship, they're always up and down, up and down, up and down. So there were certain games where you were like, fantastic, you know, it was good football, but then you're playing against Liverpool or Man U or Chelsea, and you could see the difference just alone their squads of what they spend on players. But it was a great experience. You know, just going to every ground, the atmosphere, the newspapers, the buzz around the cities, everything was just it's what you expect for Premier League football, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, most of the games that I played in the Premier League were center midfield as well.
Right.
So that, you know, at Norwich I played more as a left midfield and center midfield. So majority of my games at Norwich I was center midfielder.
I feel like you covered all bases in terms of where you played in the country as well, from west to east to north to south, because then you ended up in Southampton as well, another club with Premier League pedigree. Why didn't it work out with Norwich and you went to Southampton reasonably quick after that? And what did you make of that experience?
You know, I loved it, man. Look, Norwich, I enjoyed my time at Norwich. It was a great club, played with some great players, top drawer players, loved it. But I was at the time where I needed a change. I was picking up quite a few injuries, and it was really getting to me. And I ended up getting a call from George Burley at Southampton, and said he wanted me to come there. And I was like, look, I said, I want to come. Let's go. You know, I'll sign to the end of the season. Let's play and let's see how it goes. And I got there and I loved it. I loved playing at Southampton. It was a great club. You know, facilities, the stadium, management, the players, everything was great. Really enjoyed it.
Do you have a highlight of your time playing in England? Was there one moment which kind of shines above the rest?
No, I think you know, every single moment that I had over there, it's one that I cherish. You know, I was very fortunate to get over there and spend so much time and play in such big games and with some great players under some fantastic managers. All of it really kind of stands out to me, and it's something that I always think about quite often.
You're still a young man, and at the time you said you could probably make more money in England at that time, but you elected to come back home for your next round of first, the first player, the first captain in Toronto FC history. I mean, there's going to always be a lure to come back home, families, establishing something new. But why was that the right move for you at that time,
You
Jimmy?
know, I was coming at 29, 30, and I think I just felt it was the right time for me to come home. You know, my parents, my brothers, everybody was getting older. You know, I missed an awful lot. You know, being so young, leaving home. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what, I want to come back home. I got a call from Toronto FC asking if I want to come back and play for the club. And I thought, you know, this is going to be the right time. I knew with the ownership group, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, getting involved, it wasn't going to be Mickey Mouse. So we're going to do things the right way. And for me, I thought I'm going to come home, play a couple of years here, back in Toronto. My parents, my family, cousin, everybody can come out and watch the games. And I felt that was important for me because I wanted to be back around the family and enjoy myself and set myself up for after football, being back here locally.
Do you have any regrets thinking back about coming back to North America at that time?
No, I don't. I listen to people and they go, oh, Toronto FC was so bad back then. It was this and that. But for me, I look at the club now and what they've done. Somebody's got to play a role in building it. And I've never shied away from any challenge in my life. And I thought, this is going to be a great opportunity. Come back in here for sure. It's going to be an uphill battle trying to start this off. But I absolutely enjoyed every single moment that I played with Toronto FC. I learned an awful lot as well off the pitch, on the pitch at the club. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed those years there.
We were all wondering what a Toronto team in Major League Soccer would look like at that time. I'm not sure how much you were kind of following it from abroad at the time until you were brought in. But when you stepped on the field at BMO Field in your hometown, in that stadium, in that atmosphere, was it just as you pictured it? Was it bigger? What was it like?
It was better. I mean, look, growing up here, you know the passion that's here in the city, and people love it. Toronto's so diverse that the game's huge in Toronto, and it was finally a chance for people to come out and really express themselves and follow their own pro club for that they never got to do before. And I think also with Beckham joining the league, it also created a little bit more excitement. And for me, walking out that first game, seeing everybody there with the Toronto FC scarves hanging up, having the jerseys, the passion, the pride that was coming from the stands was electric. And I remember walking that team out that day, looking behind me to the guys and going, "Football's here to stay, fellas. This is it. They've done it."
And once your boy Danny Dicchio scored the first goal, the seat cushions on the field, I mean, these are memories that stay with you forever. Like, what were you thinking at that time? Because even I was surprised being in the stadium that day, the reaction, the way that the city kind of gravitated to the team, just like that.
You could feel the tension in the air. We needed that goal.
Yes.
And it was something special. I think even if you're a fan, you're a player, you're a coach, whatever your role was that day or wherever you were sitting, it's a moment that's going to last forever. It was absolutely spectacular. And to be honest, there was no better guy that could have scored that goal than Big Deitch. And I was delighted for the big man to get that.
Other than you, because you were the first Canadian to score a goal, I think that would have been even more appropriate, having a hometown guy score the first goal in Toronto FC history. Is that something that you were kind of trying to kick on to do a little bit?
No, look, I mean, guys, I'm a team player. I just wanted. I didn't care who was going to score, but I was glad that Deitch got that goal. He deserved it. He was working his socks off trying to get that goal, and Deitch he's an honorary Torontonian now. He loves the city. He loves the club. So for me, it was I was buzzing for him. I was happy. I felt like I scored the goal. That's how exciting it was.
You do have a marquee goal to your resume. I think the ball's still going against Columbus, your biggest rival at the time, the biggest rival for the fans at the time, pre-Montreal Impact. Yeah. A wonderful hit goal from distance, Jimmy. I mean, that was one of the sweetest goals. It was one of the best goals scored in Toronto FC history.
Yeah. And the thing, I actually had my eyes open for that one too. So I remember just standing there and I looked at Ronnie. I said, "Ronnie," I said, "I'm going to smash this." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Ronnie, just let me hit this one." Remember Ronnie O'Brien? And then Posey's there. So I said, "Posey, you're going to go on the other side and let's make this work." I said, "Just lay it off." I said, "I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to nail this thing." So they're looking at me going, "What's he doing here?" I was like, "I'm going for it." And fortunately, it was one of those shots that just it clicked. As soon as it left my boot, I knew it was going. I just didn't know where it was going to go. But I mean, it was a great moment, and for sure one of my better goals that I scored in my career.
There was definitive moments over the course of those early years, and it wasn't all bad, Jimmy. I mean, you were an MLS All-Star at home in 2008 when you and Dwayne were part of a team that took on West Ham. In 2009, I mean, the team was within touching distance of making the playoffs. Just that night in New York, 5-0. When you look back on that, you think if that night, if somehow, some way the team had got it right, then really the history of the club in terms of success could have been started to be written a little bit earlier?
Yeah, we were that close. And I think it was a year after that MLS said it was going to be five teams from each division go in. So we're like, oh, thanks for doing it this year. But yeah, I'll never forget that night. You know, it was pouring down. The wind was swirling. It was just an absolute nightmare. And the turf at the time was shocking. And you know, we were confident as well. We thought, okay, here we've got these guys. We've got to go out here, put another show, because I think was it the week before we beat Real Salt Lake, beat them 1-0. So we were just lined up perfectly for this game, and we just fell apart. It was just one of those games where nothing clicked for us. They were the better team on the day, and you know, it was one that we were all disappointed coming off that pitch after that game.
Was it too much pressure? Was the group just not ready to take that step?
I don't know. I don't think it was the pressure. I mean, look, we had a lot of experienced guys in that dressing room that could deal with the pressure. Pressure's not the problem. It was just being consistent, and you know, we did have some young guys as well that maybe got the better of them the occasion, but it's no excuse. You know, New York were just they were on form that day. They put a great shift in. They played good football, and they beat us fair and square.
That team had some really good players in it too, Jimmy. And I just look at that team and kind of what went on with so many players coming in and out. It wasn't just the players, it was the coaches as well. With a little bit more stability, if there was a consistency in terms of voice in your ear, do you think that team could have been better? Because I mean, it went from Murray to John to like it was a coaching carousel. It was very difficult to establish anything.
Yeah, we had a lot of coaches. We had a lot of players coming in and out. I mean, look, that's out of our hands as players. We just got to get our head down and do the job. You know, I can't speak on what the ownership group's doing at the time, or what went on behind the scenes with the coaches, because we're not privy to that. So I have no idea. But you know, it doesn't matter in the game of football. I mean, look, you said at the beginning, Bristol City, I had 5 managers, right? 5 managers in 5 years. So that for me was nothing. It was nothing new to me, having a new manager every single season. It's part of football.
The other thing that stands out to me is you played at the time where there was turf, like AstroTurf at BMO Field at that time. I wonder if there was, you know, a better surface there at that time, whether you would have been able to continue with your playing career a little bit longer. How did that affect you?
You know, training on that turf every day and playing, it took a toll on my body. I remember trying to get up in the mornings, and my wife would just look at me going, "You can't even move. You can't walk." My ankles would be locked. My hips would be all over the place. And it got to the point where I'm starting to think, okay, I'm starting to have a young family here. I've got 3 kids now, and you know, I had Phoenix, and I said, look, it's going to take now at 32, 33, playing on this stuff. If I pick up one injury, I'm not walking the same anymore. A lot of my friends have had hip surgeries, knee replacements, and I thought, you know what, if I keep pushing myself on this, you know, the way that I play, I like to, you know, I'm quite aggressive when I play. I want to get up and down the lines, and you know, I put quite a bit of shift in. But I just thought, you know, there's no way that I can keep pushing myself right now, because I don't want to risk it. And fortunately, in touch wood, you know, I walked away from the game with some injuries, but not as bad what a few of my old teammates have gone.
And being around the time, I mean, it was quite apparent that you were feeling it as well. I mean, do you look back at your time with Toronto FC? Like, how do you look at it? Like, positively? Do you look back at it with regret? Is it negative? Like, how was that experience? Because you're a club legend, and I know that supporters, you mean so much to them for so many different reasons.
Look, I mean, I'll always love Toronto FC. I'll always have a good relationship with them. I'll always support that club. I want it to do well. I want it to be successful, because you know, I had some great moments there and I had some great times there. And, you know, I played a small part in that club and helping building it and to where it is today. Everybody's played a role that's walked through those front doors. But I have no regrets. I've got nothing bad to say about the club. And I wouldn't say anything bad about any of my clubs. You know, they gave me the opportunity to play professional football. And for me, it was just another club in my career that I made some great friends and I had some wonderful moments with. So with TFC, absolutely, I've got a great deal of respect for the club and the organization. The fans were great with me, and I loved every moment.
Uh, we kind of skipped over your national team career, but I know how much it meant for you playing for Canada. You were the Canadian Player of the Year in 1999, part of the Gold Cup winning team in 2000. Some really good memories. I believe 49 caps. You couldn't just get your 50th cap, Jim.
Oh, I know. Maybe they'll give me one more game. Just 5 minutes. Just let me come on the pitch for 50.
Yeah, I have heard Herdman's number. I can put in a word for you, but I mean, maybe explain, because this is the thing. Being a young player who went away and played abroad, you always answered the call. You always came back, and just having conversations with you, I know how much Canadian soccer means to you, Jimmy.
It means a lot to me. Of course it does. I understand how hard it was because I went through it as a young Canadian in this country to be a professional. And I feel it's part of my role now, coming back and sharing those experiences and playing a part now to help that next generation and help this country grow the game. And if I can play a small role, then I've done my job. And I love putting on that national team jersey. I loved representing Canada. I was very fortunate that I got to play in an under-17 World Cup and win an under-23 championship, and then the Gold Cup with Canada, playing the Confederation Cup with Canada, and then 2002 finishing third. So I was very fortunate putting on that jersey and being successful with Canada and winning some championships. And they were wonderful moments, and yeah, absolutely loved it.
6 goals for Canada as well. That team not only was successful, that group that won the Gold Cup in that era, but if there was more games, more attention. I mean, I just look at the way that things around the footballing world in this country are covered today. If you can put it in a context of what it would have been like back then, I mean, your team had a lot of quality, Jimmy. It was likable as well.
Yeah, we had a lot of quality. Look, we had Holger Osiak. I really liked him. I liked him as a manager. He was good with me. He knew how to handle me. He knew what I was all about, and he knew how to get the best out of me. And we did. We had some great success. We just had a bunch of guys that just clicked on and off the pitch. We got on with each other, and that showed on the field when we put that jersey on. The one thing that I regret is that we didn't get to World Cup, because I thought we had a decent squad. And then obviously the other tournament, we got invited to the Copa America, and that's when they had some problems in Colombia, so we weren't allowed to travel. And that in our group was Argentina, and that would have been another great experience. So that was it was a shame that happened at that time. But for the most part with Canada, it was a great squad, great group of guys, and we played some decent, attractive football, and we scored goals.
You're a Canadian Soccer Hall of Famer. What do you think your legacy is? Like, where do you think your standing is in terms of the Canadian game?
I don't think that's up to me to make that decision. I played this game because I loved it. I loved every moment of it. It's my life. It's my passion. This is what I do. And if some people look at my career and say, "What a wonderful career," and I've made them happy, then absolutely, then that's great to hear. But then at the same time, you're going to get a lot of people that aren't happy with the way that you played or what you've done in your career. And so for me, I don't think about that. I don't think about my legacy. That's for other people. That's for people like you to maybe come out and say, "Hey, this is what we think." But for me, look, I did a job. I played a sport that I loved, and I'm still involved with this game. And that's up to other people to make those decisions.
We're going to spend the remaining time on the coaching side of your career and what you're doing now with York9, but I want to do our top 5 segment. When I have on former players, you need to kind of tap into your experiences, so it gives you a chance to brag about the big names that you played with and against. So you just let me know your top blank, whatever it is. It's our top 5 segment. So Jimmy, the top or best player that you've ever played with, who's been on your team?
Played with. Tell one guy that I really enjoyed playing with would probably be Peter Crouch. He was he was awesome to play with such a big man. But I think the best center back that I played with at the time would probably be Des Walker.
Was he?
Desi Walker was unbelievable. I've never seen a defender like that in my life.
The thing is with Peter Crouch, he's a big man, but he's a big personality as well. I mean,
Yeah.
now in his post.
Oh, he's the funniest guy you'll ever meet in your life.
So
On and
did
off
you
the pitch.
when he scored for England doing the robot? Did
Yeah.
you do those moves?
Yeah. I wish I could do that.
I could see that. The top or best player that you've ever played against?
Probably Ronaldo. Yeah, Ronaldo definitely.
What made him so good or so difficult to play against?
Just everything about the guy. He was miles ahead of everybody. His movement, his power, his strength, his mobility, everything about him. Just the way he sees the game. He was awesome.
The best team you played against, club or country?
Best team. I would probably say Brazil. Yeah. Brazil in the Confederation Cup. They were awesome.
The best manager you ever had, and you've had a lot of them.
I've had a lot. I'd probably say Paul Hart's up there. Tony Pulis was good.
And the best footballing memory or story that you have?
Best footballing memory. There's a lot of them. I don't know. There's so many. I mean, obviously, the people I've already told my snake stories and those pranks and everything I've done. So I'm not going to go back there again. Best story. I don't know. I don't know what I got for you right now, guys. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, you can come back to it if something pops in your head, okay? That was kind of our top 5 segment, -1. So that'll be our top 4 segment for tonight. You then moved on in your coaching career. You spent time in Toronto FC's front office. You were the assistant coach under Ryan Nelson at a time where the club was within 10 games of making the playoffs for the very first time before the coaching changes came at that time. That had to be a tough pill to swallow, Jimmy, because you're, again, within touching distance of something, and then you're out the door. I mean, how do you look back at that? Do you think that group, that coaching staff, if it remained assembled, could have gone on to take that Toronto FC side to great things?
No, you'd like to think so. I mean, we had a good staff. We had a good team. We're sitting in a playoff spot. Not many games left, and we felt we were at the right time that we were going to push on and get us into that playoffs. But it happens. It's a game of football. So I mean, for me, these things happen all the time, and you can't dwell on it. You got to move on to that next chapter. There's no point in going back and thinking about it. Because that doesn't change. Once the decision is done, it's over. You move on. It's like when a referee makes a decision on the pitch, you can argue all you want, but the game's still got to go ahead. It's no different for coaches and players. So, it was disappointing. I think the way that it happened, but that's a game of football, and we've moved on, and everybody's moved on to something different in their life, and I think we're all in a better place for it now.
It was just so unexpected. It was a long weekend. I had to come back from the cottage. It was just an absolute nightmare in terms of timing. Yeah. But I mean, that staff, extremely likable as well. Ryan Nelson. I mean, I can't say a negative thing about it. I mean, do you still chat with Ryan? Do you guys still?
I still talk with Ryan. Ryan's a great guy. Honestly, I thought he was a fantastic coach. I thought he had a lot of good ideas. I liked the way that he saw the game and read the game. And I learned quite a bit off him as well. So yeah, you know what? I really liked him.
When you came out of this, obviously you kind of stepped away from the Major League Soccer, the Toronto FC side of things, and you did a lot of great work with Aurora FC, making sure that they were part of League One Ontario and the growth of that club in your very own backyard as well. That must have given you a complete other perspective. You did the front office with Toronto FC, the day-to-day coaching with the academy within the first team, but stepping back into maybe a little bit of a different role with Aurora. What did that teach you, and how did that set you up well for what you're doing now?
Look, I mean, for me, I'm always trying to educate myself about the game. I want to see the game in all aspects, whether it's a front office or a management role or as a coach. I did the assistant coach as well, and I felt there was a time for me just to step down from the pro game. I had a few opportunities where I could have went back into MLS with Frank Gallup. He was at Chicago at the time, but I just wasn't ready. I had 3 young kids, and I felt it was time for me to be a dad, be around more. And I took quite a bit of time off just to reflect. I finished my coaching education over in Europe. and I started my European license, or my UEFA Pro license. So I had a lot going on, but I wanted to spend time and be with the family. And my good friends were involved with Aurora. They asked me if I wanted to get involved. At first, I said no. I want to take some time off. I took about a year off, and then eventually, my kids, all three of them, were playing for Aurora, and I was enjoying that time, just being home and going to the kids' practices and just being a dad, cooking dinner and being there in the morning for them. And they asked me again, and I said, you know what? Yeah, let me come see how this works in local football and what it's all about. And I did that for a couple of years.
It also gave you a chance to get on television in terms of the media side of things, doing some Premier League coverage with Sportsnet as well. What did you learn about the media in that side of things when you were working there?
It was good. I mean, the timing was right too, right? When I left Toronto FC, and it was kind of, working with Deitch and Craig Forrest and James Sharman, covering the Premier League. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And so it allowed me to do the Premier League and then, work with the local club, and it just freed me up to do a lot more things that I normally didn't do in the pro game. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I mean, it was different from what you guys did when writing stories about TFC and in the newspapers. And, we were just analyzing football matches, which was a whole lot of fun. And
does it prepare you in a different way for, now that you're, the head coach of York9 and you're seeing the panels, you're seeing people talk about your team all the time? Does it just kind of paint a different kind of picture of what that's like when you watch back to hear what these talking heads like myself are saying?
No, to be honest with you, I don't read it, and I don't listen too much about it when the press are talking about the team, or because if you do, you'll absolutely kill yourself. And sometimes I'll hear something that you guys say, and I'll have a little jab at you as well. You know what I'm like? I'll say something and catch you off guard and be like, "Oh, I know what you said." And it's all part and parcel of it, right? You guys got to do your job. You got to talk about what you see in a game and how you analyze a game. And my job is to go out there and lead a team. And I know I'm not going to make everybody happy. And the important thing is that I've got a group of guys in that dressing room that are willing to fight for one another. And the other thing is we've got to put on a good show that the fans appreciate what we are putting on. And
Jimmy, I hope you don't mind. We're going to go a little bit extra time here because we have some fan questions, and I want to make sure that we discuss York9 here because I mean this is such a massive undertaking, a massive project that's going on right now in the Canadian Premier League. You're the executive vice president. You're the head coach. How did this come about? When did you first start hearing about what was happening with the Canadian Premier League and the possibility of being involved with York9?
Well, look, I mean, we've known it's been going on for a long time, especially if you're kind of in the game. You knew what was going on. I ended up sitting down with a few people from the CPL, and we got some more insight what was happening. And a few of us myself and Praven, a few other guys, about Sarah's, we all got together and we sat down and thought, this is going to be a great opportunity to get a team and put it into this Canadian Premier League. Everybody understood that, it's about time that we have a professional league. And it was, it's about creating an opportunity for these young Canadians and creating a player pool for our national team so that when we do get to that World Cup, we're not just there to participate. We're there to put on a good show and get as far as we can.
The inaugural game happened a year ago yesterday. What do you remember about that day and really the season? Because that was the first look that the country had on this very new project. People were interested. People wanted to see what it was all about. They wanted to see what the level was like. What do you remember about what you saw that day and how it translated as the season went on?
Well, I was lucky I got to walk out for that first game at TFC and lead the team and as a player. And now it was a different role where I was leading the team out for making history for an inaugural season as a manager. And, I knew exactly what those players were going through because I've been there myself. And I wanted them to embrace that opportunity and cherish every single moment, because these moments, you don't get them in football at all. And it was a special moment just to look out and especially see how many fans that we had that traveled to that game. The atmosphere was great. And then for us to score so quick as well, I think it was a relief for all of us and relief for the players. But full credit to Bobby's team as well. They put a great show on that day, and ended up 1-1, which I think was a fair result for everybody.
Did you keep anything from that day? I mean, that's going to be Canadian soccer history right there, whether it was something from the stadium, the match ball, a scarf. What did you keep from that day?
My tie.
Your tie?
Yeah, I got nothing else. Everybody took everything.
You should have got the match ball. Where'd the match ball go?
I don't know. Somebody took that.
No? Okay. I mean, the first season, I mean, the line is forever first, but really everything was brand new. What did you learn over the course of that first season?
I think for me, it was an eye opener because I realized that these young Canadian kids can play football. You don't really know what to expect when you just put a squad together, and you're looking at the league saying, okay, these players are here, and you know a little bit about them, but you don't know a lot. And when you started seeing the coaches, you see in their philosophy, their style of plays getting implemented into the teams. And when I saw these young Canadian kids going out and playing, I was amazed. I think everybody was shocked just how good the standard was, and how it elevated towards the end of the season. It just seemed to got better and better and better. And it was great to see these young Canadian guys get an opportunity in their own backyard and playing professionally in Canada now, because without this league, they would have never had this opportunity to play pro football.
I absolutely agree with that. Your team was very good as well. They finished third place in the league, but the two teams that finished above you essentially came up together in the Canadian Premier League. They had a lot more time together. Heading into season 2, I mean, you made some changes this offseason, brought in some players of real quality. Do you think that might have made a difference in year one, the fact that the two teams were a little bit more familiar with one another?
Yeah, look, I think so, but you can't take anything away from Bobby and Tommy. They built good squads. They're a good team. They got their tactics right. They deserved it, but now it's given everybody else an opportunity to realize, okay, there's a standard, that's what's set, and we've got to catch that now.
So in terms of your coaching, I mean, you've had a lot of coaching influences. Is there one coach that, as the season went on, you kind of caught yourself in a moment saying, yeah, you know what, I'm coaching the way that he did at that time?
Maybe kind of. Look, as a coach and who I am today as a manager, I'm a product of all the managers that I've had over my career. You take a little bit of everybody, and that's what your DNA becomes. Anybody that says, "Oh, I'm a manager and I've thought about this all by myself," they're full of it. They're lying to you. Everything that I do and my philosophy, the way that I think has got a lot to do with every single manager that I've played under and every manager that I've worked with, because they've all put something on the table for me to take now and create my identity as a coach. So when you see me coaching, that's a bit of everybody that I've been involved with in this game.
I look back on your season, there was a number of highs, including that two-legged tie against the Montreal Impact. Montreal went on to win the Canadian Championship, Jimmy, but honestly, do you wake up at night saying, we could have made that run? We could have been the team that knocked them out, because honestly, you were that close. A penalty in the second leg, your goalkeeper was phenomenal all season, an uncharacteristic gaffe led to an equalizer at home. I mean, I'd wake up in a cold sweat. Have you woken up and say, what if?
I guess for me, all I ask is my players is that, they go out there and express themselves. And they give me everything that they got. We're going to make mistakes. And if we make mistakes, we've got to make sure that we learn from them. With Luca and Nate, they made mistakes. They came in, they put their hands up and said, look, made a mistake, my fault, I'm sorry. I can't go after them and I can't criticize them for that. They're young men. They're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes as a coach. But it's how we react. And I looked for a reaction from those guys. And, they gave it to me. They were honest and they learned from it. And we went back up to Montreal, and I thought they put a great shift in up there, and I thought they had a wonderful performance. And we were unlucky again. You know, if Ryan Telford could have maybe nicked that open net rather than put it over, then we would have had an opportunity. But you know, I think the reward there was after the game when their coaching staff came over and said, "Look, you've got some great players, and you guys play good football."
I love this championship expanded format. I mean, this is what it's all about. Like, you were part of the miracle in Montreal with Toronto FC and other good moments in the past, but the expanded field really opens up those stories to be told, don't they? And I just wonder what it would look like and what it would mean for you, your York9 team against Toronto FC. I mean, a local derby. You know, you're being involved with both organizations or both clubs. What would that be like for you?
It'd be a great moment. It really would be, to go back to TFC and to be on the sideline coaching against them. But look, I'm with York9 right now, and it's all about York9 winning. It doesn't matter if we're playing TFC, we're playing Forge, whoever it may be. It's about York9. I'm part of this club, and it's about us getting results and being successful.
So there's been changes both on and off the field this offseason. What excites you more? What's going on in terms of the off-field build or the on-field build?
I think with the off field as well. I mean, getting Stolly in. Me and Stolly, we've grown up together. We've known each other a long time, and you know, it was just the right time to bring another guy that's been in that professional game for a long time, who's got a lot of experience that can help with our young squad. And then also the players that we've got coming in. I think we've got a good core of players, and we're getting the right pieces in place. And to be honest, we can't wait to get going and get out in that field. I mean, we were down in Orlando there for it was about 8 days for preseason. The team was coming along, and we were looking good. And then we got the call to come back home because of COVID-19. But you know, it's about us now, just keeping the guys taking over, keeping them active, and then, you know, hopefully we can all get together soon and get ourselves underway with this season.
And just lastly, just tell me this. I mean, there's a lot of excitement heading into the new season, which is obviously being delayed for the time being. We're not sure what's going to happen with Atletico Ottawa coming into the fold as well. It's just, it seems like that this league is just ripe for incredible growth in the coming years. It's got to be exciting, not only for you, but the players involved as well. What's the vibe around the team and the club heading into season 2?
The players are excited. They're hungry. You know, we talked about it. We want to win. We want to win championships. That's our goal. You know, with Ottawa coming in as well, it's great. Kind of balances the schedule now for us. But this league, it's great for the young Canadians now, young Canadian players, especially the Canadians that are coming towards the end of their career. It gives them an opportunity now to stay in the game at a different capacity, whether it's in management or they want to be coaches. They're going to get those opportunities to stay here in Canada and coach and learn their trade. So, you know, it's exciting times. It's a shame what's happening now globally with COVID-19, but you know, I think with this game and where we're heading with the World Cup coming, you know, I think this is going to be great for the Canadians that are involved.
A couple of fans have asked the question. I mean, if you're a young player trying to get involved in the professional level, whether it's in the Canadian Premier League or elsewhere, what do you recommend, Jimmy? Like, is it finding that voice, finding that advocate for you, someone within the game, or what is it? Is it something else?
Look, if you're good players and if you're a good player and you got good work ethic, you'll get spotted. People find out who you are, but it's really just pushing yourself as hard as you can and giving yourself a shot to be successful. There's no time off. Every time you're on that training pitch, you got to train like it's your last. Because to be a professional, it's a different level altogether. The training's completely different, and the big thing is you got to be hungry for it and you got to want it bad enough.
How often is your phone ringing with players wanting to get a look, wanting to come to York9? And
yeah, you know, it's an awful lot. You know, even with Gus, we talk all the time. He's got players that are calling him all the time. I've got the exact same thing. You know, a lot of people want to come to Canada, and there's a lot of young Canadians as well that want to be professional footballer because they see this as a great opportunity, and they just need to know and understand and know what the path is.
And finally, heading into 2026, a home World Cup, something that you obviously and the guys wanted to be part of, but now this is a chance for the country to celebrate men's football in this country. What do you envision the soccer climate in this country looking like building up to 2026 and where it goes from now until that time?
Yeah, you hope we have a lot of growth within the CPL. Hope we have a lot of teams that are stable, and the league is growing. You want it to be successful and healthy, so that when we get to that World Cup, that we've got a huge player pool from players that are playing over in Europe, players that are playing here in Canada and North America, and we get there and we put on a good show. If we look at this as Canadians and saying, hey, this is great, we've got an opportunity to be at a World Cup and just participate, is going to be no, we've got to make sure that we put on a show and we go as far as we can, and collectively across the board, everybody that's involved in this game at the pro level and the youth level have got to be on the same page and make sure that we're all pushing in the right direction so that we're all collectively successful.
Awesome, Jimmy. This has been great. Did a story pop in your head? Anything good? Parting shot?
Nah, let's just say that probably winning the Gold Cup was a great moment, but I can't tell you what we did after that. That was a great party.
Well, you can if we go out and have a couple beers. Then those.
Yeah, we'll tell you one day.
Jimmy, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. For people that want to know more about what's going on with York9, where should they go? What's happening? And who should they follow other than York9 across, of course, the digital channels and digital platforms?
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jimmy.
Cheers, buddy.
Canadian Soccer Hall of Famer Jimmy Brennan joining us here on Inside the Game. I want to thank David. I want to thank Armin. I want to thank Kurt. I want to thank you for tuning in as well. We're going to be back on Thursday night. And one of Jimmy's old national team teammates and Jason DeVos will join us on the program. We'll discuss his past, his playing career, and where Canadian football is going today. Jason and company have been putting in a lot of work at the grassroots level, growing the game, spreading the gospel, and making sure everything is simpatico across all levels. Jason DeVos will join us on Thursday night. On behalf of everyone here at One Soccer, a reminder to subscribe to us at One Soccer. And remember, stay home and stay safe.